something you did that reduced your quality of life so much that you wish you had never done it? Story 1. Let the dude I thought was my best friend back into my life because I felt bad for him. A year later, he killed my son and fiance in a jealous rage. Edit. I appreciate everyone's kind words. I am in an okay place mentally. This time of year is just particularly tough. Story 2. I was jumping on our kid's trampoline and I hurt my back, and I've suffered sciatica pain all these years since. My life would be so much better if I had not thought jumping on a trampoline would be good exercise. Story 3. Stayed in a long-term relationship with someone struggling with addiction and alcoholism because I saw the addictions as a type of mental illness. And what sort of partner would I be if I abandoned him when he was sick? Then, I had my first serious illness since we had met, and missed a lot of work, had to stay home for almost a month, and he was unemployed at this time. He started to get very obviously irritated with me for being home all day, so he didn't have any alone time, for making him feel the pressure of returning to work because I wasn't working, so I wasn't bringing in any income. I suddenly had this moment of clarity where I realized he was the only one allowed to be sick in our dynamic, and while I had been playing nurse for years, he really didn't like when I got to be sick as if it was a choice, especially when it interfered with his routine. I left him a few months later when my health improved. He passed away about a year later, as his health deteriorated rapidly after I stopped caring for him. I definitely feel some guilt in the matter, even though I know I can blame myself for the poor choices of an adult man who was almost in his 50s. Story 4. Going to prison at 19 for selling weed. In the end, it worked out. I've since graduated college and have a nice engineering job and great life. It was a rough patch in my life for sure. Freezing stuck in a prison cell in Joliet for 77 days. Went weeks without showers or seeing sunlight, then shipped off to boot camp for 5 months to be further denigrated. In the end, it caused me to grow up and prioritize what I want in life. Worked and paid my way through a 2-year community college, followed with a MIS degree at a 4YR university. Life hasn't been perfect, but I always have perspective on a bad day and that I've had it much worse. Story 5. Caring for others who do not give a word about me in return. Wasted far too many sleepless nights on people who wouldn't give a flying monkeys if I was in a situation like theirs. Story 6. Probably getting flamed for it, but smoking weed young. It neutered me since quitting am twice as productive and sharp. I'm sure it is okay for some, but someone has to say it isn't always peachy. Story 7. Bulimia for 15 years since I was a teen. All because my mom put me through Weight Watchers as a kid because I was a little chubby, never felt thin enough. Ruined my teeth and digestive health. 10/10, do not recommend. Story 8. Skipped the mammograms because I had a "it'll never happen to me" attitude when I was younger. Now I'm laying on a bed at a breast center waiting to get 5 biopsies for suspicious spots. Story 9. I left Walmart after 15 years to be a store manager at Starbucks. Worst mistake of my life. I remember nights I was there at 10, after a closer called off, just to have an opener call out, and knowing I'd have to wake up in 4 hours and work another shift and hope the same thing didn't happen again. Just awful. And the stories I'd hear interviewing people, I had no idea how bad fast food was. People from other companies wanted to work at Starbucks because those places were even worse. Story 10. Went rock climbing one day without a helmet on. The first time I didn't have it on was the day it needed to be. A severe TBI is an injury I wish upon no man, woman, or child. Story 11. This will sound glib, but I'm going to say it, moving to a city in Texas. A better way of saying it, no matter the promotion or the amount of money, never move somewhere where the general and sum total ideological or political belief system does not align in any way with your own. Story 12. Succumbed to my food addiction. Again, after 2 years of extreme dieting and exercise, I lost a lot of weight and went down to the absolute best shape of my life and felt very good about myself. Once I got down to an ideal weight, I didn't know what to do with myself anymore. I didn't know how to maintain it. I started eating horribly again and am now, just over a year later, at the heaviest point in my entire life. I binge eat to the extreme and I'm pretty powerless to stop it. It affects pretty much every aspect of my life to some degree, and it's a very depressing feeling. Story 13. Not choosing a second cesarean after the first emergency one. During the birth of my second child, my levator ani pelvic floor muscle ruptured, making it no longer connected to wherever it should be attached to. I did not even know this was a major risk with vaginal births after a cesarean, and quite frankly, did not know that that could happen at all. Now I might not be able to jump, jog, run, or walk fast in my life ever again without my organs quite literally falling out of me. This not only nuked all of my volleyball activities, which was my primary hobby, and I played 4th league in Germany, but it also left me with an extremely weak bladder. Talk about quality of life. And the real kicker? There simply is no way of attaching the muscle back to where it belongs. This is the current state of research and medical procedure, so I can really say bye to any form of active lifestyle. Story 14. Staying in an unhealthy relationship, not prioritizing moving out of my abusive parents' house. taking advice from people who had never faced the issues I was having or have any professional experience handling it, taking on student loans. Story 15, social media. It has seriously messed with my attention span, and I can't even remember how to enjoy free time without checking it every 5 minutes. Story 16, radiation treatment for cancer. Never again. Possibly saved me from metastatic disease, and I mean possibly. The side effects are totally made light of. Oh, XYZ only happens to 3 of the people, blah blah blah. I am permanently shrink-wrapped in my body like being wrapped in a blood pressure cuff I can't take off. I am at risk for future cancers from the radiation, including more breast cancer, skin cancer, lung cancer, and thyroid cancer. My lung is scarred, and I wheeze. Everything in the rad zone has shrunk, muscle and tissue. I deal with untreatable pains that range from aching, stinging, burning, pinching, electrical zaps, and internal itching, yes, internal. And I already look like a walking Picasso painting from the disfigurement, but I can still possibly get lymphedema at any time down the road from my lymph nodes being radiated. My shoulder and range of motion is FED too. All cancer treatments. They all have major life-altering risks, and frankly, it's like, die now, die later, still dying. Am I bitter? Abso-effing-lutely. What's the point of it all if your quality of life is working at an animal shelter? Story 17. Not so much as what I did as what was done to me. The combo of age, AI, and COVID killed my graphic design business. And now, instead of WFH making my own hours and really decent money, I'm working in a call center of extremely long, stressful hours with no work, life balance, or creativity. It feels like dying. That and moving out of my hometown to a different state and allowing my mother to dictate where. I'm living so far beyond my means that I'm blowing through my savings at an alarming rate. Story 18. Speaking for my brother, he did acid once and developed schizophrenia. Just had a mental breakdown from it and never recovered. Was not worth it, Imo. Story 19. Getting fat. As someone with ADHD who already struggled to feel comfortable sitting, having extra weight on my legs made it even harder to sit. I've lost 55 lbs so far. More to go. But I feel so much more comfortable now. I also have far less nerve pain. It's easier to exercise, which helps reduce pain, and sleep better. You never realize just how much being overweight decreases your quality of life. Story 20. Fall for the romanticized idea of overworking, overachieving, and ignoring my health-related red flags as a sign of virtue and strength. I felt so proud about not getting enough sleep or food, not letting illnesses stop me, and working my off. At the end, I never got actually recognized for any of it, and completely blew my health at only 24. Now I can't do half of what I could do before, and lost so much time of my prime years trying too hard instead of being a happier person. Story 21. Had heart surgery. The complications have disabled me. I wasn't disabled before the surgery. I would have rather have lived a possibly shorter life than to have been severely disabled. Story 22. Took a promotion. I was working in a job that I really enjoyed but was offered a promotion that switched departments into an area I've never worked before. I didn't really need the extra money but thought it unwise to turn it down, and the company really needed help in the new role. I sucked at the job and hated it. Quit the company after about a year because they had hired someone to fill my old role already, and I had nothing else I could do with them. Now I'm doing multiple jobs that I hate and feel totally trapped. Story 23. Moving to Manhattan in my 20s. Almost 50 of my income went to rent out a horrible shoebox studio apartment without any natural light. I couldn't afford to go out and enjoy being young, let alone save for a down payment on a house. And that's not even getting into what it did to my mental health. At least I got out of there in my 30s. Story 24. Attempted suicide through car accident. Did not get result I was looking for at the time. No worries. I'm all good now. Therapy, meds, etc. Just ended up with a bunch of up bones, enough metal holding me together to qualify as a runner-up for the Bionic Man, missing teeth, permanent jaw pain, a limp, and a little bit of brain damage causing periodic absence seizures. 010 would not recommend. Story 25. Aggressively unlearned all my dad had taught me about fixing cars and machines. He was a complete nightmare to work with, but I missed out on a chance for an imperfect but real bonding activity with him, and now I need to call a service station if the cup holder is rattling. Story 26. Being a waitress for 20 years. It's extremely hard on your body, but also what you can do afterwards. I have 2 kids now, and am lucky to have a husband who can provide, but if I had to go back to work to support us, our life would not be the same. The hours, the money, the mentally taxing management, co-workers, customers. It's just not a healthy environment, guilt-tripping and pettiness going on, so that I have my weekends and holidays back. I did my time. Story 27. I became a recluse for a couple years when COVID quarantine started. I started drinking beer frequently, eating unhealthy food, got depressed, etc. I was able to turn things around thankfully. It required a huge effort on my part. And now that I look back at those times, I ask myself, how on earth was I able to endure that much self-inflicted loneliness and self-loathing? Story 28. Marriage. The psychological financial abuse has left me an unrecognizable shell of my former self. It's hard for anyone to identify because he is so charming to everyone else. Story 29. I moved into my BFS family house. His mom hates me for no reason, and she takes every chance she gets to put me down and throw away my stuff. I've never felt so much stress in my life. Story 30. I know this could upset people, but it really is my experience. Going to therapy? It has been horrific. If you have an abusive therapist, prepare for just leave. Story 31. Didn't eat breakfast for all of high school. I thought I needed to lose weight because of course I did. I was a teenage girl in the early 2000s, so I just skipped it and smoked cigarettes to stave off hunger pangs. I eat breakfast now and I quit smoking 6 years ago to the day actually. But my metabolism and moderate cardio leaves me huffing and puffing like I just summited Everest. Eat breakfast and don't smoke, kids. Story 32. Graduating college. I pissed away the best years of my life working a full-time job and going to school only to get a degree that is borderline useless. Computer science should not be a 4-year degree. It should be a trade skill. All of my classmates ended up working at the same place after college due to the housing market disaster in '07. I had to take a $10,000 a year pay decrease to start my career. I was making far more doing the job that I worked to put myself through school. I'm doing pretty well now, but it is doing something I could have learned in a year on the job. The lies and bullshit. Public schools need to stop indoctrinating kids into believing that college is a good idea before the kids even know what they want to do with their lives. It is state-sponsored debt slavery. Got married to someone who was in love with the idea, but not in love with me. The quality of life was reduced so much after 11 years that life almost ended. I am okay now, I guess. Was able to finalize a divorce and escape. Just don't see a path to recovery. Too much was sacrificed to restore myself. Story 33. Dating that one guy in high school. The only thing sparing me from a PTSD diagnosis is the fact that the DSM doesn't recognize emotional abuse as a relevant trauma. Story 34. Had body issues most of my life. Bulimia for the better part of a decade. Now I have holes in most of my teeth. Afraid to go to the dentist because I know I'm losing most of them. Can't feel any pain though. Just one ugly smile that constantly triggers my body image issues. Also, abusing laxatives permanently ruins your ability to use the bathroom normally. Got constant gut pain and severe IBS to the point that I can't leave my home during flare-ups. Don't do bulimia, kids. Story 35. Let my grandmother dictate my college major because of a vague promise to help with college. I'd wanted to be a veterinarian my entire life. Still do, but was railroaded into engineering because it makes more money. Yeah, I make good money. My career is in a good place, but I've rarely felt job satisfaction. I'm usually bored, and I still to this day want to be a vet. And the kicker, her help was to help me move into my first dorm. I paid everything on my own through loans, grants, scholarships, and eventually internship money. So I paid a lot of money to not live my dream. Laud. Story 36. Had just to get virginity out of the way, ended up getting her pregnant, and she was and still is a bipolar, narcissist, emotionally abusive person. Yes, you can get someone pregnant on the first time. Honorable mention to marrying the first reasonable girl who loved me. I had looked for decades and had done so much to fix myself that I was just exhausted from it all, and married the first good enough instead of waiting for someone that was great. Story 37. Moved in with a friend and her new work colleague friends in a completely new city. Worst thing I ever did. Moved out into a new flat with complete strangers using spare room and had the best couple of years of my life. Story 38. Slept less to keep up school and work. At one point, I was sleeping around 3 HRs a night and falling all asleep at the wheel regularly. It's been 10 years and I still have problems from this period of sleep deprivation. Kids, don't sacrifice your sleep. Turns out you need it. Story 39. I used to want to gain weight so I could finally have a butt. I have now been overweight almost the same amount of time I was a healthy weight. I'm trying to lose it far this time, and it's incredibly difficult. I got it though, but the health problems and low self-esteem made living that way a big challenge. Story 40. Honestly, vaping. So far, I have no adverse health effects, but trying to quit has been horrendous, and I'm sure later on, I'll show some signs of vaping or have some sort of issue from it. Please don't start. Story 41. Married someone I wasn't physically attracted to because they were good on paper, nice, smart, and successful. I didn't marry him for money because he didn't have any when we met, but I thought he was a solid, reliable partner with a great future, and that 2 out of 3 ain't bad. He did eventually make a lot of money. I thought that the respect I had for him would be enough and that attraction would grow, It didn't actually got worse with time. I was gonna ride it out, but he eventually got tired of being pushed away and we divorced. Probably good that it happened, but I feel like I wasted a lot of good years being just okay rather than actually happy. When I hear about people marrying for money or and things like that, I want to shake them and tell them not to do it. You have to have chemistry. I actually loved my ex. He was conventionally handsome. He just didn't do it for me for some reason. Now I'm with someone who doesn't have much in the way of success or money. He's actually terrible on paper, to be honest, but he's so cute and funny. And we have good chemistry, not saving and instead maxing out credit cards in my 20s. Story 42 went hiking in Bear Canyon in Tucson, fell and wrecked my knee. Before that, I ran 6 to 7 miles every day. After that, I could no longer run. I've missed running every single day since. Nothing replaces it. Wish I'd never gone on that stupid idiotic hike. Story 43. Stressing about the shouldas, wouldas, and couldas. Make a decision. But remember, you made the decision with all the information you had at the time. Hindsight is 20/20. Story 44. I ignored that voice in my head telling me to distance myself from my family ASAP. Was a teenager when I started thinking about it, and I ignored it. And, as I grew older, suppressed it. I thought it was just me being dramatic and reacting in an emotional way like my family would say. 18 years later, I finally went no contact and have spent half my time feeling so free and light and happy, and the other half grieving for the time lost denying that voice. When it comes to our individual survival, we gotta trust our instincts and intuition every time. Story 45. I have too. Spent 20 years in a relationship with an entitled girl. The one great thing to come of it is my daughter, and honestly, I would keep this one just to keep my daughter whom I have full custody of. The second was the relationship right after with the psycho. She faked my signature on her child's birth certificate and lied about cheating. And now I am fighting the state over child support for a child I know isn't mine. But the DNA test I was able to get is inadmissible. Story 46. I sadly stayed close to parents that had abused me as a kid and were awful to me as an adult. They were my parents, and I loved them. One day, while taking a shower at about age 45, I looked in the mirror to comb my hair and noticed some small scars on my back and near my ribs. Then I remembered it was from being hit with a belt when my religiously fundamental parents were angry. I spent my life being really hard on myself and finally decided to cut my parents out of my life. It was hard, but the right decision. Story 47. Xanax. Put me in a terrible abusive relationship and put me in jail for a few months, then on probation for years. Paid tens of thousands in court jail fees, lawyer fees, probation fees, developed PTSD in jail, all because I got addicted to that demon of a drug. Just lucky I didn't kill someone in a benzo blackout. Story 48. Had the implanted contraceptive implant. Once I had it removed, that's when my issues started. I now have hidradenitis suppurativa. It's very debilitating and life-changing, not in a good way. I've had this now for 20 years. No cure, and I can't find the right balance of treatment that suits my body. Currently waiting for surgery to try and improve it. Impacts every aspect of my life. Story 49. I wish I never smoked weed or drank alcohol. I spent too many years abusing them and neglecting myself. I'm so grateful for my sobriety now, and have no desire whatsoever to revisit any of it. Story 50. Get married. Biggest regret ever. But it is hard to say that at the same time because I have my kids and I wouldn't wish them away for anything. Love them so much. But the marriage and husband were awful and he was abusive. Story 51. Went nomadic as a full-time RVer. It was easy to sell off everything and drive away, but when the RV got totaled, I found myself homeless. And it took years to get back to a normal way of life with my meager funds. Story 52. Accepted a big promotion. It required moving 1,000 miles away from my family and close circle of longtime friends. Now, 5 years later, I'm rolling in cash, but miserable. I've tried to find work back at home, but no luck so far. Story 53. Studying nonstop when I was 16 and 17 to get into medical school. Funny enough, I got in, but I dropped out after one semester. Could have done more fulfilling stuff rather than studying 247. Story 54. Gonna be downvoted cause it's Reddit, but taking an SSRI. I was depressed and anxious because I had a shitty life at the time. I was broke, homeless, and in an abusive relationship. I trusted the NP in my doctor's office even when I took the meds and felt worse. I was numb, more depressed, and gained so much weight so fast. When I sat in the office crying that things were worse, she just kept adding drugs. I was desperately hungry all the time and sleeping nonstop. I literally did not feel happy at all for several years. 3 years and 40-50 LBs later, I quit the meds on my own. The withdrawal lasted months. I had screaming headaches, brain zaps, and mood swings. After quitting them, I finally got my life together. At least I had the energy to work more, learn new skills and save money, left the abusive guy, etc. It was a shock to feel anything that wasn't numbness. I have a few lasting effects 10 years later. I cannot control when I cry and have long-term physical issues from the sudden weight gain and damage it did to my ankles and knees. I tore a tendon thanks to those meds will cause pain and occasional limping for the rest of my life. Oh, and the last of the anxiety I had? Totally fixed along with my once-a-month migraine by birth control, which I suggested and that idiot nurse refused to prescribe. I deeply regret not seeing a real doctor for a real workup. The 5-question depression test she gave me was created by Pfizer to increase the people who need their meds. I have struggled with the weight and pain for years now. Weight didn't magically come off when I quit the medications. I would never ever touch an SSRI again for any reason. They're not benign. Everyone feels better meds. And I would never ever suggest taking them without a psychiatrist supervising. Story 55. I was the unfortunate to suffer serious side effects of my second COVID vaccine. I was not, nor became, anti-vax, but I really wish I hadn't gotten it. I developed chronic pain and thyroiditis. It went untreated docs, blaming anxiety for long enough for me to develop permanent heart issues. I went from an active, athletic person to near bedbound. Now I'm overweight and hypothyroid asthmatic with chronic pain and arrhythmias. Things have slowly gotten better, and this year the thyroiditis was in 2021. I went for my first run jog in 4 years. Story 56. Moving around a lot. I did it because I like to travel, but now that I've settled into a place, I realized I have 0 friends. Trying to make new ones when you're old is a humbling experience. Story 57. Increased weight on the leg press too quick. Now I've had some sort of groin hip injury for the past 4 years, and no one can figure out what I injured, and now I can't walk long distances. I get pain when sitting too long. Can't lay on that side. It sucks. Story 58. Trusted the wrong friends, fell for the emotionally manipulative girls, and spent my time thinking too much about narcissistic people who never felt guilty for their actions. Realized after a long time that they never do. Story 59. Didn't stretch before splitting and stacking and threw my back out really bad when I was 28. 20 years later, and it has caused all kinds of problems and been in constant pain. Story 60. For people who want to stop smoking, get varenicline, aka Champix. 2 weeks on the tablets, and you wake up one day and say, I don't want to smoke anymore. It kills the cravings. It's so easy to stop. Then you realize that all the other stuff like, oh, I need it for anxiety, I need it with a coffee, is just bull. That is just your physical addiction turning into language in your brain. Story 61. Playing football in high school led to a blown-out knee, killed my confidence, and led to decades of debilitating pain until I got my knee replaced 3 years ago, which was 35 years after the injury. Story 62. Got married. Now I love my husband and all, but just one day of my life I'd like how I leave a room to be how I find it again when I come back an hour later. Not every cleared surface needs something dumped on it. Story 63. Took Prilosec omeprazole for acid reflux rather than change my diet. I had osteoporosis at 35 years old from this horrible drug. My bones were like dissolving rubber. Prilosec, even taken here and there, stops your body from absorbing calcium. It took years of heavy workouts to get my bone strength back, but my ankle will never be the same after it shattered into a zillion pieces. Non-weight bearing for over 3 months and lost my income. It was horrible. Rest of my life I have an ankle full of metal and arthritis. Your doc can give you a list of foods to avoid if you have acid reflux. Eat them sporadically and take Tums for breakthrough heartburn. Story 64. Moved my dad in with me. He was an abusive, controlling father whom I moved 300 miles away from the day I turned 18. Then, at 45, I moved him in with my family because he was in end-stage COPD. He lived with us for 7 years, passed away from lung cancer. Moving him in with us brought up all of the abuse issues I'd pushed aside for years. I ended up in therapy for complex PTSD. Moving him in with me caused me extreme anxiety. Now that he's gone, I've been able to work through all of it, but that was a chapter I never should have started. I mean, I needed to deal with my child abuse issues, but without him there, constantly triggering me. Story 65. Getting out of the Air Force. It was the worst decision I made in my life. I've struggled financially ever since. I make over $120K a year and live paycheck to paycheck in CA. I had to deal with the post-911 economy. I was an aircraft mechanic. The industry was in shambles when I got out. I was a young father struggling to make it. I lived through the economy collapse of '08 and the housing market crash. I've never earned more money in my life but still living paycheck to paycheck. I can't even make it to the next pay period without overdrafting or having to pull money out of my savings. Just this last Friday, I went to my brother-in-law's retirement from the Air Force we joined. At the same time, he was in boot camp with me. Now he has a retirement, will probably get disability from them, has a GI Bill for school. Plus now he can get a civilian job for extra income. He owns a house, multiple cars, has traveled the world. Meanwhile, I've barely left the state of California. So, yeah, worst decision of my life. I regret it every day. Story 66. Years of denial. Of being an alcoholic. Thinking others were the problem, then after being in recovery realized that I was the problem. 9 years of sobriety. Story 67. I spent 30 years as a pillar of society in a very niche world. I got sick, stepped away, And less than a year later, no one even remembers me to see what happened. So much for being the industry standard. I see my influence all over the place now, but people don't recognize me anymore. I wish I hadn't wasted my energy for decades. I made the choice to be non-profit, but it didn't improve my life at all. Story 68. I didn't go to the dentist for a few years in my 20s. No one was making me anymore, and it was just a pain to schedule things. I thought I was doing all right. Turns out I wasn't. Had to deal with a lot of issues connected to that poor choice. Still dealing with them a little bit because I have to be vigilant, and my dental checkups are a little more expensive because of it. Kids and young adults, don't skip the dental appointments. Trust me. Story 69. I grew up in an upper-middle-class background and ended up choosing a career that I thought was going to be okay enough, and at least flexible enough to allow me to focus on motherhood. But after having 2 kids and current advancements in AI, my workload is almost nothing. Our finances have tanked, and I don't know how I'll recover unless I go back to school. I'm already enrolled to start this fall, but it'll be at least 4 years until I'm qualified, and nothing else related to my field is a viable option either, so I really don't have a choice. I'm the oldest, but my brother and stepbrothers and all our cousins made better career choices, and therefore have a much better quality of life, and I'm just the idiot who stepped off a cliff. If anything, it's like a mark of privilege, like my parents were so unconcerned with money they didn't even think to warn me I was making an unwise choice. They just wanted to support my dreams. I can't fault them for that, but I sure wish I could go back to younger me and tell her she'll hate her career in a decade's time because the financial stress sucks out all the joy. Story 70. I got fat. Intentionally and actively gained weight. Let a crazy woman stuff me over and over. I work a job that has me on my feet 8 hours a day, lifting, bending, pulling, and twisting. But I can't lose the weight. I miss running and jumping, but I still love eating. Story 71. Went vegan from ages 17-22. Ended up turning into full-blown anorexia. Totally up my bone mineral density since I was starving myself during a crucial stage of bone development. Normally people achieve peak bone density during these years, so I pretty much just squashed my potential max BMD. I was 105 lbs when I graduated college as a 58 man. Was told later in life that my parents were contemplating force hospitalizing me during that time. Ended up figuring all that out over the following 20 years. Now have a healthy relationship with food, and looking back totally, see that much of it was rooted in needing to establish control in my life when so many things felt in limbo. I do think that I took years off of my life during that time though. I've never really been able to put on much muscle mass. Realized in my early 40s that my testosterone is super low, and I'm starting TRT to help with that. I'd bet a month's pay on my anorexic years contributing to it. Not looking forward to seeing what other weird health things pop up in the future that could probably be sourced back to this time period. Story 72. Bulimia for almost a decade. Ruined my body, acid reflux, will never feel comfortable in my own skin. My teeth are yellowed gum recession. I don't know how to eat now, which sounds insane, but I no longer can read Hunger Quest or when to stop eating. I've been recovered for 4 years, but it still messes with me. Story 73. Stayed in an abusive relationship for 6 years. I felt stuck, and he refused to move out and threatened to take our daughter overseas. So I couldn't see a way out. I had the chance to leave when I was pregnant, but I didn't realize how bad he was until after our baby was born. Think. Stuck in bedroom with a baby, unless wanted for cleaning, cooking, and unconsenting. I should have just ran away with my baby. Luckily, we did get out, but he completely changed my soul, and I don't even know how to laugh out loud anymore. Chased a promotion for 5 years, only to realize even getting it wouldn't improve my QL. Story 74. Slipped 2 discs in my back. Ruined my career. I was going to be a paid fireman and then spent 2 years battling insurance to get my back fixed. I still have chronic back problems now. Story 75. Working at the government, in a job I was required to report fraud if I discovered it. Did it, and got constructively dismissed right before the pandemic, and now work at McDonald's and can't get a better job due to job gap. Now I have to commit suicide because I can't afford to be alive anymore after this year ends. Protect yourself and never do the right thing if it can harm you. It cost me my life both figuratively and soon literally. Story 76. Sports injuries. Both my shoulders are crippled. Right one was dislocated several times, repaired, and then I did some roids and ruined the repair. It actually feels okay now. Never dislocated the left, but all the cartilage in it is ruined now and needs to be replaced. It makes sleeping hard and it's always in pain with reduced mobility. Just being in pain all the time takes a lot out of you, but also hinders my physical activity like climbing and golf. Basically is the bane of my existence these days. Story 77. I bought a car from one of those predatory places that flips fleet vehicles from car rental places at like 15 financing, and spent years paying it off because I mistakenly thought it would be more effort to fix my Lincoln, which needed like 2K in repairs probably. I think about this almost daily when I'm in my plastic bag of a car. Story 78. Smoking cigarettes. I quit years ago, but I still regret it. There is no quality of life when you are jonesing for a smoke, then have to remove yourself from whatever social situation you're in to go out and smoke, then come back stinking. No matter what you do, you smell like smoke all while destroying your health. I still don't know how it's going to come back and bite me in the later.